Hey there, bestie. I'm Loriemi, your What to Read Next podcast host. Join me as we dive into exciting new reads that'll have you reaching for your TBR pile in no time. From group of mysteries to spicy romances, we'll explore it all and help you find your next favorite book. So grab a cup of tea, cozy it up, and let's discover some amazing reads together. Hi, Pagan. Welcome to What to Read Next podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so proud of you. So excited to chat with you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Raquel Vasquez Gilliland, and I have wanted to be an author since I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
Author and illustrator specifically. I'm still working on the illustration part of it. And I currently live in Tennessee, in East Tennessee, in Appalachia. And I love books. I love my garden. I spend a lot of time in the garden. I'm also like an amateur herbalist. And I like to read tarot cards and lots of stuff.
I love that. I love it so much. So what kind of garden do you have? Do you have like vegetable garden, fruit garden, like a vegetable fruit or flowers or just herbs? Like what kind of garden? Talk to us about your garden. All about it.
Yeah. Basically my whole yard is a garden. I know it sounds impressive and it is a lot of work, but it's not a huge yard.
Yeah.
It's really like I have 2 small side yards, a little bit bigger in the backyard, and the front yard is a little bit bigger too. And I really wanted it to be as beneficial as possible to the local wildlife.
Yeah.
And also to me and my child, because I wanted him to grow up, honoring the natural world and like the magic and miracle of seeds and flowers and the pollinators. So to your question on what kind of garden it's all of the above.
Yeah.
In the yard, I have fruit trees, multiple cherry trees, an apple tree, a mulberry tree. There's more I'm forgetting. And I have a strip of mostly native flowers I'm growing. And I had an herb circle that I kind of tried to put my herbs within this rock circle.
Yeah.
And now I have herbs everywhere. Like I just got really invested in herbs. There's herbs literally all over. And I'm growing tomatoes and a squash, like summer squash, a watermelon, cucumbers. So there is, the traditional gardening edibles.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is flowers. I actually have a side hobby of cross-pollinating flowers to create new varieties, particularly with dahlias and zinnias. So, yeah, it's not as complicated as it sounds. I really let the bees do the work, and then I save seeds and then see what comes up next year.
Come on, it's so great. I did not realize that could be a little project where you can actually just do and create something for the next season and to see what it comes up.
Especially with the dahlias, because they're only, the specific dahlia plant can only be replicated either with a cutting or with a root. Because if you save seeds, their genetic variables are too big. You don't know what you're going to get. They're octoploids as opposed to diploids, which most plants are. They will eat sets of chromosomes, so they can look like anything. So you have to save the root. Basically, you have to make a clone. So, of the dahlia. So the dahlia is almost like instant gratification. Like you save seeds and you get a cool one. That's it. That's your cool plant that you can share and save for next year. So.
Amazing. Thank you. I did not realize that, but so long as I have an apartment dweller. Most of my life. But my goal is for me, I have access to community garden that I want to read, I think just kind of fun and just plan when
Yeah, you need to go hands for the plethora. Well, it's so weird, like not monetizing every single hobby. But this is like could be a fun. I don't need to monetize. It's and just enjoy the plethora of your apartment. So thank you for instructing me. I'm like letting me know like there's so many possibilities I can do. Okay.
Yeah, and you could do like if flowers weren't your thing, you could do the same thing with tomatoes. Like you could keep saving seeds and like planting your favorites together to see what comes up next year. Because if you want to preserve a certain tomato, you got to cover the flowers once they're pollinated because you don't want them to cross-pollinate, Well, cover them before they're pollinated because tomatoes are wind pollinated. That way the unpollinators won't cross-pollinate them. But if you don't care, like me, I'll take rotten tomatoes that an animal ate on the vine or whatever and throw them in the compost. And who knows what's going to come next year? And actually, my compost tomato is the best tomato I've ever had. This year, the best tomato I've ever had. So I'm going to save those seeds and hopefully I can recreate those again next season. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Oh, being different. And for reading, do you have a specific stuff that you love? There's this page that you look forward to it. I grew up with a lot of read, so I grew up in a long line of witches, real life witches, And so when I was curious to now that I'm exploring that idea of going back to it, do you have favorite tarot or just a straight up regular deck?
No, I have a lot of decks. I'm looking at them. There's many, but my favorite are the variations of cats.
Yeah.
The cats are doing the human things.
Yeah.
Just tarot. And I think it just brings a little bit of levity because a lot of times tarot can be scary, whether it's because you were raised more strictly religious or conservative. Or some of the cards are kind of violent.
Yeah.
So if I pull a card like that and it's cats, it helps me to be okay, it's symbolic. I'm looking at something symbolic. So I do right now, my favorite little deck that I've used the most is called Tarot of the Pagan Cats. And it's just cute. It's very cute. So
yeah, and I participate in energy reading, a community of other people who are interested in the same setting the week. And so everyone will read their own deck and stuff like that. And I didn't realize because I grew up in the old school, very straight up tarot, the old school tarot cards. That's what my mom used. That's what she engaged with, so she got to see energy readings we're using. So I didn't realize there's this whole world of decks. And someone presented a pasta dog, and I was like, I need to have the pasta. How cute, a little pasta, little bunny, little lady, Takes up a lot of information. And I was I'm now fascinated. Okay, I need to know which one's your favorite dad. So, to be perfect, to make this more palatable and more cute and more fun.
Exactly. And I actually acquired a deck recently called Cute Ghost Tarot. It's almost like the kids' Halloween illustrations of ghosts. It's really cute. And that's what I like. I guess I just like the less serious decks because when you're reading, it's important to be relaxed. And if I pull out something kind of gory looking, it stresses me out, So the cute decks I prefer.
Yeah, that's all the same. Yeah. So it's definitely close to that. So the books of motivation about we saw, you were able to strict, and I think when my upbringing was strict about mainly religious, this is bad, this is all the stuff. And I grew up in a culture where it was kind of this witchcraft and same time with about it's a weird combination of it. It's interesting to see the readings when it comes with they may come to say something else, and it's just silence. It's not anything else. You see death, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die." And you're no, it's clearly a little death, a little rebirth, a little change, and all different things. And there's young, it's then just the initial thought, the initial message. And I think that's a beauty of tarot. It's it's that over the older. It's where you are, what you have to do, what's telling you, and what it comes forward.
Exactly. That's a beautiful way to put it. And I'll just say this. I know not a lot of people would not validate, but agree with us, I guess. But if a card is triggering, like, don't read with it.
Yeah.
Like, take it out. Especially with, like, in my life, if somebody is ill, like really sick, I'll take the death card out because I don't want that to come up during that time in my life. So, yeah, because your mental health is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So,
And honestly, like sometimes you just get the message you need to receive at that moment. Like things change, decisions change, things move around and stuff like that. So it's not the sense of like the correct point this and this is the epiphany of what it wants to do. It's like, no, it's just giving you guidance at something and where you are is where you need to be, but it's not the whole like things change, like, stars change, like opportunities change, the thought process change, you're somewhere else. And so it shifts as it goes along. It's just like, it's just a guidance. It's not like, this is the what's of your life. This is how you're supposed to go.
and you can do multiple readings depending on if I do X, what will things look like? If I change my mind or if I make a different decision, then what will things look like? I do that a lot actually because I'm indecisive. So
Yeah. So, thank you for indulging me in this question. So, let's talk also more witchy. So, witch of the wild things is your new series. There's two books in the series. The first one's Witch of the Wildlings, and the second one's Light in Different Worlds. One is out applied for the series, and then we'll talk about it in depth. So, people can go and enjoy.
my elevator pitch for the series is really short. This is a Latinx practical magic.
Wow.
But 3 sisters instead of 2. Because that's what I typed on Twitter while I was in the middle of Witch of Wild Things. I was on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter right now or anymore, but I was like, I'm in love with my Latinx practical magic. And an editor saw that from Berkeley and wrote my agent. And she ended up buying the book because of it. The tweet. She obviously loved the book, but the tweet is what connected us.
Oh my gosh.
That's I'm like, that's a tried and true pitch. That's
What?
successful pitch. So that's my elevator pitch.
You're calling into the universe. You're like, writing this world and like, you have to like really big a little approach and like, find it just soul,
Right, exactly. And it worked. And I still refer to that every now and then because it's like still amazes me. Like I'm just sitting there kind of taking a break from my writing and, you know, probably eating chocolate. I kind of eat chocolate throughout the day, especially when I have to work day. And I'm like, let me just type up. It was literally like one line. And that is what led to Berkeley buying the series. So
I love it. And so, like, hands, we have fake marriage, we got it's seaweed, all class, things you can't control. But take about lightning and want to what can we just expect on that when step up back from the series.
yeah, so Lightning in Her Hands follows the middle sister and makes sense. Just the middle book, Teal Flores. And she, it was really interesting to write from her perspective because she was the villain in the first book. Like she was the villain, right?
Yeah.
Everyone hated her. I get a lot of messages from people who were like, I hated Teal. Like, I think they thought that Sage forgived her too quickly for what she did to her elder sister and Much of Wild Things. And so, it was kind of hard for me to get into the mindset of how I'm going to kind of book that features a character people hate, because generally speaking, we want to read books about people we can relate to and see ourselves in. And usually if we hate the character, we don't want to see ourselves in that character and we don't want to read their story. So I had to sit down and be like, okay, why is Teal the way she is? Usually people behave in ways that are hurtful because they're traumatized. So I was able to go back into her history. And this isn't a spoiler. It was a Witch of Wild Things of their mother abandoning them and learning how that affected Teal and how it led to her feeling like she doesn't deserve love. So I knew whatever trope, I chose, it would have to be one where she's kind of in a lot of forced proximity because her thing is to run away and like put up all of these barricades between her heart and Carter, so who's her love interest. So I was like, I guess we should do a marriage of convenience. She can escape if she's married. So, there's that trope. There's only one bed, and I'm trying to think of other tropes. I mean, there's, I don't know, I guess magical. She can she can control the weather, or the weather reflects her emotions. So there's that element too.
Which is kind of put down, fun place for me. Like, it's something you can't control. It couldn't your emotions. You've got to take a hold of them. Like, sometimes your emotions can control you, which I think it's a great paradox as a writer, because you can create chaos, as we do the story out, as we grow, the heals and grows and deals with stuff, still can play around with all.
Yeah, it was really interesting because, when I sent the first draft to the editor, Christine, and she wrote me back and she said, I feel like Teal's trait, like her emotional trait, could be explained by something like bipolar disorder.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, okay. So I began to research bipolar disorder, and I contacted a sensitivity reader, and when I sent it to her, she was like, yeah, like this is it. And hence I just changed some of the language. So I was able to um, create a character who has bipolar disorder. And that sort of adds a little bit more intensity to her struggles with weather magic and the weather reflecting the emotions that she has a difficulty controlling or regulating. So that was really cool, especially because my editor was like, it's really rare to get a bipolar character in a book, especially a romance, where she gets a happy ending.
I don't see that. Like, we're deeper, because we see a lot of white characters, like, struggle with mental health, neurodivergency, but like with the Latino community, and especially from my experience, it was never okay to, like, you're supposed to silence, you're supposed to be docile, you're supposed to be submissive, you're supposed to be like childbearing and give hints and all those different things, and then how to deal, and that's kind of the end of the other, mental illness, like trauma, like actual trauma, and actually, it's a whole different ballgame. Like, I read it to my 12 and all sort of things, and I ended up like going my own route. But I found that it's really rare to see other people in that same struggle who also identify as like again, some little again, like that's again, like, because our culture it has its own set of legitimate and sort of like expectations that we may not see in the typical American culture. We might see it now with the Christian nationalism and stuff, but it's a whole different, even more deeper, which is powerful, just to write that character and to provide voice to those who maybe struggle with it, or maybe living with it, and may want to see themselves in the paper.
It's so powerful. And, what you just explained is the same thing that I've seen in my family. Like, I had a Dia who struggled with her mental health, and she didn't get the support she needed. So she died by suicide when I was little.
Yeah.
And everyone, like, the whole conversation around her and her life is so filled with pain that people don't want to talk about her. When they talk about her struggles, it was someone else's fault. Like, it's not the culture's fault, or the way we talked about her struggles fault, or approached her with her struggles. It was everyone else's fault. And we are going to, especially after a trauma like that, like, our inheritance as the next kids, as we definitely aren't going to talk about it. I do not want to hear if you're struggling.
Wow. It's a generational trauma. Generational, we were generational wealth reality. We want to hear generational wealth reality. We just heard generational trauma. I actually come from the Fall Olympics where people were like, your feelings are not valid because I'm not worse than yours. Somebody else, my family line, got worse than you did. It's like the stuff that like, you go to the Olympics and you're like, who has the worst try? Or you just don't talk about it. It's not valid. Even your simple run-of-the-mill trauma, run-of-the-mill, like, depression and anxiety is like, we don't talk about it. So you're like, you need a silence, or you just have to compete with somebody else.
Exactly. And that's actually a key component of people who haven't learned how to heal their emotional trauma is they cannot stand to listen to the struggles of others and they have to invalidate it. Like it's almost like if you watch them, it is like a knee-jerk reaction. So I'll tell somebody in my family, I have a headache, and they're like, well, actually, I'm suffering from a, a displaced hip surgery from a couple years ago, and it's really acting up today. Like it's a knee jerk. I'm the only one who is allowed to be in P. And that's also incredibly harmful, especially before I knew what it was. Like now that I've been through therapy and I understand what they're doing, it can be more entertaining rather than hurtful. But I remember being so hurt because I'm just like, I'm really sick. And they're like, you're okay because I'm sicker, you know?
It's Olympics. Who's gonna win the gold medal? Who's gonna
Yeah.
go? Who's gonna do it? The only gonna be the silver medal because we're now living the goal. It's like the sense of like competition. I think it's a nuance and something that we don't talk enough about it. I think and as we feel as our generation starts to be awakened and try to figure out like, hey, I'm gonna fix these issues for myself and maybe for the future generations. Maybe this conversation shifts, almost shifting in some ways, but it's interesting. Yeah, I feel I went into therapy for like 20 years. Like I invested in therapy, like invested in time. And so it's funny enough, like my roles were shifting with my parents were actually before they have like, but I had to teach them how to do it. I had to teach them when they're competing with your things are worse than my things or my levels. If I'm mental health is worse than the other one. But it's a lot of responsibility for that person was wanting to heal to also take care of like, and be a role model to others, and not everyone wants to be a role model. You just want to process. I just want to process. I just want to live, leave my arms, do my little hobby, do my little podcast, go to work, do my thing, come with life. That's what I want,
Exactly. And I know where you're coming from because I'm an eldest daughter and I'm the first to graduate high school. I'm the first to go to college, first to get to multiple degrees. And I feel like I'm just continuously educating my elders. It's not just with mental health. It's also like I had to teach them what ovulation was.
Yes.
No, I had to teach them about their own bodies. Yeah. It's a huge burden. At the same time, I recognize it's not their fault, but they're not educated. And most of the time, I enjoy helping them. But sometimes I'm just like, oh, this is just so much for one person,
Yeah. Well, I felt your writing can actually infuse that knowledge and that construction and that level of, just looking at the world in a different space. I think it brings you a little like a depth that would, help not just help yourself and help others. And you see, I think that's what I love about reading romance specifically is to see where there's other opportunities, there's healthier options out there. There's not about blocking red flags that we grew up and watching them in our lives. Like there are other opportunities out there and that we are seeing characters going through it, but they're also feeling and they're also living a wonderful life because that's what it's guarantees out there. So I think it's you're doing a service. Whether it's thankless times or not, it's a service, not just for you, but for the community.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that it's so silly when people are like, oh, romance novels are just boring because there's such a huge emotional element to it. Not to say that horror doesn't serve a purpose, but conflating them means you've never read a romance, so you don't understand romance, because the emotional arc is why I read romance. I love seeing people transform and realize they're worthy of love. Like that's it. And yeah, the spicy parts are fun, but I wouldn't read it if there wasn't that emotional component. So
No, yeah, and the emotional running and just like it's looking at even the spicy parts. It tells you like actually opportunities for you to explore that part of yourself.
yeah.
So it's just like it's an opportunity for you to explore things within yourself, like not just like one thing or the other. Like it just gives you an opportunity to see like this is what I felt emotionally looks like. This is what I kind of style looks like. This is not, when your idea well might be a little different. And then this is actually a fun, safe, consensual, safe exploration of sexuality.
Mhm.
That sometimes we get silent for, right? So we're not supposed to enjoy pleasure. We're not supposed to enjoy like things that feel good. But no, like actually almost get to treat like it is possible and it is good and it will happen for you. Here are some examples of how.
Oh yeah, like standards. Romance novels are raising all kinds of standards, like
Yeah.
emotionally available partners, emotional reciprocity, orgasmic reciprocity.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I really credit romance novels with educating me on that like you said, by example, because although I wish all young women were kind of taught to not do this labor in the relationship and to not expect a lack in orgasms, a lack of orgasms, or lack of reciprocity in other areas. I wish that all young women were taught this, but like most young women, I would say I wasn't taught this. And I was actually taught that, oh, this is how men are. We have to do their labor for them because they will do it wrong. And we shouldn't expect too much of them. And obviously I'm talking about the hetero normative or the hetero romances that have taught me that no, it's possible to imagine an actual healthy, balanced relationship. And once you imagine that, then your standards just go up and you can't tolerate anything less.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. That's what they're doing this work and maybe for writing and like putting in like in a place for not just for us to consume, but also to be educated in some ways and to raise our own standards. Like to give us more examples of like here's some happy things. Here's some things you're not just a childbearing woman. So you just procreate, right? You like to enjoy sex. You've been enjoying this for the sake of enjoying it. Doesn't have to have an goal. Doesn't need to be monetized. Doesn't need to be optimized. Like can just be enjoyable and consumed. So thank you for indulging with this conversation. Do you have any books you recommend our listeners pick up? Any books that you have read recently or this room like this one book? It doesn't have to be a favorite. It can just be any book that you might be. I think reading a bunch of a lot of things and then what else can do?
Well, I saw the pre-podcast questionnaires. I have a couple of books already. The first one is Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. So I know,
Yes.
yes, for everyone who's listening, I'm holding the book up.
Yeah.
The subtitle is The Surprising New Science That Will Transform Your Sex Life. And I have been reading this book for a year. I feel like it's so important. I only read 1 or 2 pages a day.
Yeah.
Just taking it in slowly. And basically she is shattering all the myths, especially the super sexist myths about what sex is, about what desire is. And I just feel like every person probably every person should read it, especially those who want to have a sexual relationship. So super important. I'm actually getting close to done finally, but she's also a really compelling writer. So I'll miss it when it's done. So the next one is Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon. And this is one of my favorite romance novels because I feel like a lot of romance come with the trope of the man She knows her body, and then it knows what she wants and what turns her on. And she has multiple orgasms with very little effort on his part. And I really do. I mean, those are fun to read, but I really appreciated this book because they have a one night stand, and it is like the worst sex she's ever had. And they end
Terrible.
up, it's horrible. It's awkward. He's just completely unintuitive and really uninterested in her responses. And of course, because it's the novel, they are in forced proximity, and at some point she has to tell him that was bad, and so she has to educate him on pleasure, hence pleasure and business or pleasure, and it was just really good, really fun, and also it's really hot. I think when a woman educates a man on her own pleasure, and he is humble enough to be like, okay, let's do this. This is a book. I think this might be the most recent book I finished. It's called Fresh Banana Leaves by Dr. Jessica Hernandez. And the subtitle for that is Curing Indigenous Landscapes Through Indigenous Science. And she is a scientist. And basically, she is speaking about conservation and how it's been excluding Indigenous people when it should be centering Indigenous people and Indigenous healing practices. And it was really good. I had my book club read it, and we had a great discussion about it. So I recommend it. It was awesome. So
These are great recommendations. I just found out about fresh memories, and I need to add this to my care. So thank you for giving me something new that I was unacceptable. And I mean, but this is a question was like, it's your realistic point of view. It's a terrible one. I'd say. But I think in some ways people like highlight like, oh, women stand so great, but like it can be terrible. And you're just like, what are you doing? Yeah, so yeah.
yeah, just like I don't think this is a spoiler because this would be included in any sex education. When she introduces him to where the clit is,
Yes.
he says 15 years of ineptitude are just like around time.
Gosh.
Oh,
Terrible. Terrible. You know, it's like something nation. It's not great. So, like, what can you expect? Right.
right. And excuse me, high school, I had probably the most advanced sex education available.
Yeah.
It did not go into pleasure at all, like at all. They emphasized that they didn't talk about anything other than heterosexuality, first of all. And then they said that the man will always be ready quicker than the woman. But they kept saying that over and over again. And I was like, okay, like, what are we supposed to do about that? And they didn't talk about consent. I mean, they just showed the slideshow of the various diseases we could get, presumably to scare us. And
Or you can get pregnant. It really puts out to it. This is the end of it. That's what they wanted to do. But my job's a question, definitely, for myself, but I think sex education of like either get disease, you do it too young, or you just get pregnant and then you're supposed to have a bunch of babies. That's it. No, you're not supposed to enjoy it. You're supposed to just have babies.
right. And if you look at the history of purity culture,
Yeah.
I mean, they used to, at a certain point, they would have the men wear, I can't recall the name now, but it was basically this nightgown with like a hole because you wouldn't get to have to see each other naked. Only the most essential body parts were exposed. And it just sounds horrible. Awkward, so sad. Like they think that was superior. Like it's just so indicative of this irrational fear of our bodies and our ability to experience pleasure. So,
again, let's use back to romance. Let's just start reading romance. Let's start learning more about your body, more about your relation, more about consent, more about like what it's feeling. And What are the green flags? All the green flags, not the red flags, not the really red flags, the green flags.
Right, exactly. All the green flags. Wait, at me, please.
Yes. So, what can I tell us for the final line?
Okay. I am on Threads mostly.
Yep.
I believe my username is Raquel Vasquez Gilliland _poet. It's really long. I don't know why I chose that when I joined Instagram so long ago, but now I'm like, I really can't change it at this point. I mean, I could, but it's like, so.
It's all good.
My name _poet. I should have just said my name. Why did I add
Because
poet?
you were calling me the poet. You were calling and I am the poet. So it is okay. It's the
True. That's true. I called myself a poet, and then I had 2 books of poetry published.
There we go.
But yeah. And my website is my name, raquelvasquezgilliland.com. I'm also on Instagram, like I said, under the same username as Threads. And I think that's it. Like, I don't think I am anywhere else. So,
Okay. Thank you, Dr. for being on the show.
thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Thanks for joining me on this episode of the What to Read Next podcast. If you enjoy our bookish conversations and want more recommendations, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, head on over to the What to Read Next blog for a list of books mentioned in today's show. Happy reading!